Do you find yourself wanting to keep secrets? This is a really common thing in our culture is and not just our culture, probably in many cultures around the world. But if you find yourself always wanting to keep secrets, whether it's your own secrets or your family's or your friends or something like that, that can become a problem. And I'm going to talk about why it's a problem and then what you can do about it in this video today. So welcome back to Elder Gal. I'm Allison, and we're gonna dive into this because I did a video more than a year ago about lying, and this is kind of related to that, but also slightly different. Now, as kind of a refresher, because you may not have seen my earlier video, I will talk about the fact that I was raised by a liar. My mother was a serial liar. She lied about a lot of things and she tried to cover up a lot of things and she had a lot of secrets. And actually, one of her biggest secret, we didn't even find out the truth until after she died. So that's how big her big secret was. I was raised with that mentality, but I never embraced it. Somehow, I always knew that if you tried to keep secrets, that people were going to find out eventually anyway. And that is a fact. That is what happens. So I can understand why sometimes we feel like we have to keep certain secrets. But just know that most of the time, not all, but most of the time, people find out your secrets. So my point would be, why are you keeping so many secrets? Now, I had an attitude in high school about this, which is weird because how many secrets could I have in high school, really? But my attitude was people were going to find stuff out anyway, so I was just honest about everything. Of course, I didn't have a lot to hide. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't having rampant sex or anything like that. So I really did. What secret did I really have? Okay. But my attitude stayed the same through most of my life, with some exception, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And most of my life, I felt like, why would I try keeping a secret from people when they're probably just going to know? They're probably just going to know at some point in time. And so that kind of directed a lot of my behavior and my attitudes towards being truthful, because I was a very honest child from the earliest years. And that is my basic nature, to be honest. And every time I have to be dishonest, it makes me sick. It makes me sick mentally. It makes me sick emotionally. It even makes me sick physically sometimes. I do not like lying to people or keeping the truth from people. Now, does that mean I go around with a billboard, on my body, just telling everybody everything every day? No. But my attitude is I'm not going to actively try to keep secrets from people. I don't go out and advertise stuff, but if somebody asked me a question about something, I generally am going to tell them the truth. Now, like I said, wasn't always this way, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's get back to you, okay? Your life, or maybe people you know. Do you know people that keep secrets, that are always telling you, oh, don't tell anybody this? And they do it a lot? Okay, that's probably an issue. Now, my good friends pretty much know that I'm pretty honest, so they still try to go, don't tell anyone this. And I say, well, okay, I'll try not to, but I can't promise that in most cases. And that's just the way I am. So if people don't want me to know something that they're so horrified somebody's going to know about, and most of the time it's not even that bad of a thing. That's what gets me. If I had a good friend and they had a really big secret, something that really would harm them or someone they care about to know, of course, if they asked me to keep it, I would keep it, because then I would give my word that I wouldn't say anything. But the thing is most of the time it's silly stuff that people want you to not say. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why wouldn't you want to know somebody to know that you, oh, I don't know, let's pick a random thing. Well, why wouldn't you want somebody to know that occasionally you have dumpster dived, for like secondhand stuff or whatever? A lot of people do that, but some people are like really hung up on it, like, oh, I wouldn't want people to know I did this. Well, then don't do it. That's my easy answer to it. If you're doing something you don't want people to know about, then don't do it. To me, that's perfectly easy. Because obviously, on some level, because you don't want people to know, you know that it bothers you, or if it makes you feel ashamed, or makes you feel guilty. So don't do it. And, my mother had this big one. Remember, I just explained how my mother was a serial liar. But my mother had this big one of like, well, it's nobody else's business. Okay, yeah, you could say that, but then people will make stuff their business. So you could say, oh, it's none of their business, and it makes you think you're on the moral high ground somehow. But the point is, people are going to find stuff out. So that phrase is meaningless. Meaningless. Now, I know I'm taking an extreme stand here, and you can disagree with me. That's fine. This is a lot of what I'm offering right now is my opinion about this, which I kind of feel like when you're moving through life, be as honest as you can most of the time. Now, obviously, there are going to be exceptions to that. But let's get to the title of this video, which is that secrets keep you sick. This particularly applies to people who have addictions or are engaging in some sort of behaviors that are very harmful. The secrets keep you sick motto was something I learned when I was in graduate school for counseling psychology and taking a class in addictions. It specifically applies to addictions. I think it applies much further than that, but really to addictions it does. Because people who are using, either engaging in chemical addictions or behavioral addictions or whatever kind of addiction it is, they're always trying to hide that from people. The problem is the more they hide it, the more it keeps them sick. Because the only way to really overcome an addiction is to be honest about it, be real about it to yourself and to others. And so, by keeping it secretive all the time, it keeps you sick. It keeps you engaged in that addiction, active in that addiction. And that's the problem. But see, I would posit that this also applies to things other than addictions. I think it applies to any kind of behaviors of which you feel some shame or guilt about in some way. Again, going back to what I said a couple minutes ago, then why are you still doing that behavior? Why are you still doing that if you have shame around it? It doesn't make any sense to me. So to me, the answer is the same if somebody has an addiction or not necessarily a certifiable addiction, is that stop doing the behavior that's causing the problem. Stop doing the behavior that's causing the problem. Now, I know something about this. I told you I was going to get to my exception for this. And that is, most of my life, I've been very honest. Most of my life, I would just tell people. Like I said, I always felt like people would find stuff out anyway. And my theory was, well, you just tell them. I don't care. That's fine. I'd rather people know from me than like through the grapevine or something like that. But in the years that I was actively gambling, and I have talked about gambling in a couple of my earlier videos, I lied. I had to lie. Because, of course, the interesting thing is, because I hated the lying so much, I generally just wouldn't be around other people or talk to people a lot, so I didn't have to lie to them. My answer was to isolate, in other words, rather than have to lie too much. But I did have to lie. I did. It goes with the territory. It was an addiction. Any addict is a liar when they're using. Any addict is a liar when they're using. That is just the bottom line. And I did it too. Now, I did it probably less because I tended to just isolate so I wouldn't have to lie to people. But I was still lying. I was lying. And I was keeping this shameful secret. I was keeping this secret, and I know darn well that certain people knew that what I was doing. I never had, other than my son who did know that I gambled, but other than him, I never discussed it with my mother or my sister or anybody in that part of the family. But I know darn well they suspected, if not knew. So what was I accomplishing by just not even talking about it with them? Of course, they never directly asked me. If they had directly asked me, I probably would have told them the truth. Because again, my theory is people will generally find out, and if I'm confronted, I generally lean towards telling the truth. So my point is, that secret that I had to keep kept me sick. Kept me sick. And that's why I'm so passionate about this concept, because I went through it. I suffered the consequences of my own actions about this. And so now, on the other side of it, where I'm not having to do that anymore because I'm not actively going out and gambling on a regular basis. Because of that, I don't have that shame anymore. And I've told a lot of people my history. My gosh, I'm telling you my history. So once you just tell the truth, you don't have to hide and keep the secrets anymore. That's the point. And that's what makes you healthier. That's what helps you heal from addiction. That's what helps you heal from other things you may have done. And so I really, really encourage you or anyone you know to try to live a life of integrity with the idea that you're not going to keep a bunch of secrets about things. Now, I'm not saying never do that. Everybody has probably 2 or 3 things in their life. They're like, I don't feel any need to tell anyone that. I'm ashamed of it. I didn't like what happened or whatever. And that's fine if it's only 2 or 3 things. Everybody has a right to have some secrecy in their life. I'm not saying you just walk around and just tell everybody everything every moment. What I'm saying is have a life of integrity. Be willing to be open, because the more you're willing to be open, the less you're going to have secrets that then keep you sick. So think about that. Until next time, be well, be kind. Take care. Oh, keep moving forward as well. And take care. Bye.